Good morning, comrades. It is a beautiful Thursday. We are back, baby. We are back. And we have Ginny and G Wolf in chat. You missed the phasing music that sounds like it was recorded from a radio from 1982. It sounds that good? Wait, does it sound not good? Does the music not sound good? Because if it doesn't, I can try and fix it. I got a lot of technology around me, so I can try and figure it out. But anyway, we got Jenny G Wolf in chat. Morning. Good morning. Is this thing on? Hello? Is this thing on? How we doing today? Yeah, I had a little bit of a breaky break there. A couple days where where's my picture? Oh boy, I forgot how to use a computer. Don't touch it as part of the show. Okay, cool. All right, that's good. But yeah, the GMC is back. I'm back now. I thought I switched it over, but you know how things go. But yeah, we're back. Had a little breaky break. We went out to some, cabins on north of Lake Pontchartrain. Kind of went and hung out for a little bit, and there was a lot of options of things that we could have done. We could have went to go hiking. We could have went swimming. We could have got a bike, good bikes, and rode up some trails or whatever. And we did none of that shit. We basically just sat out on the back porch, on the water, and read books and played video games or whatever. Didn't really do a goddamn thing for about 72 hours, which is fine by me. Because every time every now and then you just need to chill out. I was I don't know. I guess I've just been spinning my wheels and making myself go crazy about stuff. But one of the things that there's a lot of stuff that happened. Apparently the CIA got woke while I was gone. We can watch that video. And we can talk about that. But first I wanted to talk about this is the thing, and we talked a little bit about this before because there was a local story about it. I did not realize how coordinated this whole thing was. Because right now, apparently bosses everywhere are just whining that people are they can't find workers to exploit. It's unbelievable. It's it's an epidemic. So here's an article from the Wall Street Journal. We talked about this before I left, and they're still whining about this stuff. The Wall Street Journal says COVID and unemployment relief makes help impossible to find. Now, if you were thinking that people at home during a pandemic have it so good that they don't have to run out and get a job where they would risk their lives to do it in horrible conditions for low pay, you would think that that would be a problem, that the boss's problem, right? If you are a capitalist or whatever, or if you believe, maybe not capitalist because that's different, but if you believe in markets and you believe that the market rate for something is sort of dependent on conditions, then I got some bad news for you, Chief. If the one part that you're not doing is you're not paying your workers enough. If workers are in a position where they're comfortable enough, despite the fact that we didn't get any real serious money for the stimulus payments, the emergency relief payments, and then there's a $400 extra for unemployment, and qualifications for it was way easier to get. You would think that you would think that the natural solution would be, well, looks like if we want people to work for us, we should pay them. But no. The actual answer is you run to the Wall Street Journal or whatever newspaper is going to listen to you, and you say, we can't find any workers. It's terrible. Why can't we find any workers? So let's read. Christine Phelps came near her COVID breaking point last year as she contended with a naughty 5-year-old boy, quote, the most hyper child I've ever been around, in her Indianapolis home daycare. On a particularly bad day, he urinated on her fence and cursed in front of. Wow, this is getting to a really interesting start for this article. I did not pre-read this one. I did not expect this to be about child urinating. Hope this is not TOS. On a particularly bad day, he urinated on her face and cursed in front of playmates. Other child care providers turned children like him away for behavioral problems, but Miss Phelps realized that, quote, he needs help. These days, she also asked herself, quote, how am I going to keep dealing with all this? This is too much stress. I don't have no one helping me. What? Oh, wow. You only get a clip of this story. I didn't even realize that. Okay, whatever. We're going to get plenty enough. Miss Phelps, 46, has been trying to hire for months, but, quote, no one is biting whatsoever. Her business, Christie's Love Bugs, cares for 11 pre-K children and 15 school-age children. She has only 4 staffers, all part-time. Although she offers employees free training, they help with certifications as much as $25 an hour. With no one to fill the jobs, Ms. Phelps works 10 to 12-hour days. So the poor boss is like, Citations Needed did a good pod on this last week, and it's not a shortage of people, it's a shortage of offers a fair conversation. And it sounds like this person pays apparently $25 an hour. Where does this even located? Because that's like not the worst in terms of payment, but still, I mean, if it's not getting people in, you need to pay more. Period. Like, but and I can actually Let's keep looking. Lots of entrepreneurs are the poor entrepreneurs are overworked these days. The National Federation of Independent Business surveyed more than 500 small businesses and reported last week that 42% of them had openings that they couldn't fill. As long as we've been conducting the survey, it's never been that high, says Holly Wade, executive director of the NFIB's Research Center. Some 7.4 million jobs were open at the end of February, according to April 6th report by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Some workers feel they'll contract COVID. Yeah, it's just that little thing of COVID that is preventing workers from coming to the workplace. That's that little thing. And some parents are unable to take on full-time work because their children's school. Oh, I see what they're doing. They're making it about schools in certain places being 100% virtual. They're still open, by the way. But there's another reason for the acute labor shortage. It pays to stay on the couch. Oh, geez. As COVID, those lazy fucking workers, as COVID spread and the nation locked down last spring, Congress approved enhanced weekly benefits of $600, which they don't get anymore. It's now cut in half. Lawmakers have since trimmed it to $300 a week and extended them through 2021. University of Chicago classic says that even with the supplemental benefit halves, 40% of workers making more than their pre-employment wage, and it doesn't count food stamps. Blah, 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 blah. What this is basically just doing is saying that, like in the middle of this pandemic, all of these workers, all of these families who have gotten all this, any amount of money to survive. If you got this is welfare queen shit all over again, right? If you want to look back, yeah, they don't have health care unless they qualify for Medicaid. Paid leave isn't a thing. And yeah, the fact that right now, bosses are they can't get workers in, and they can't get their profits rolling is actually not the worst thing in the world. The idea that Christine's, love bugs or whatever the fuck, that sucks for her. But also, we are in the middle of a pandemic. People are going to be struggling to come in, to go places. And I mean, again, this is sort of a leveraging point that people are throwing out there, that specifically bosses are throwing out there, to essentially make an argument against these kinds of programs. Oh, unemployment is paying too much. Let's cut unemployment. Oh, the media is also complicit in spreading job shortage stories. Yeah, well, exactly. As it puts the burden on a worker instead of the company, which is trying to extract more than the fair share. Yeah, exactly. I mean, profit is theft, right? So essentially, when a worker comes in and when they do work and get paid less than the value that they produce for that work, then that, I mean, essentially, like, you can't do that kind of exploitation, and sad, the capitalist has to go and do it themselves. They have to essentially, like, I mean, it's actually kind of in a certain sense, like, less alienated labor for them because they're the fucking owner, obviously. But yeah, and like you're saying, the media, the press, is sort of running these stories because they know that, well, essentially, in create a narrative, right? There's a narrative now going that, oh, look at that, we can sort of talk about this epidemic that's facing our small business owners, our poor, sweet, innocent, business owners, and it's the goddamn workers' fault, and it's ridiculous. Um, if you think that the fact that you can, like, stay home for a couple of extra months, and I don't qualify for this, I don't get unemployment right now, but, like, if you can stay home for a couple of extra months, um you know probably make slightly less, I mean, in many cases significantly less money than you would have made while working, but still get by and survive, because work is so miserable and so horrible and so awful that you just make the choice to take less money to, one, be safe, and two, just stay out of that, like, horrible environment for a little while. I mean, that's not a bad thing. If you think that's a bad thing, that you're sort of like self-reporting. But anyway, yeah, I mean, we covered one of the ones that did it was almost exactly the same story, that was localized to here. Um, Mental health benefits from not working are priceless. Yeah. True. And, like, and to be clear, like, this is a time right now, where, like, mental health stuff is kind of critical. I mean, like, when COVID first started, we sort of talked about um how, like, it was essentially like when COVID happened, it was essentially a traumatic experience for everybody at the same time, and sort of like everybody sort of dealing with that traumatic experience at the same time, and sort of getting through it. And that's not ended. It's still persisting, and it's kind of taking on, like, a long-term stress point. Just because, I mean, like, people are coping with the sort of reality of COVID by just pretending it's not real, and that's not a normal response either, right? You just pretend the thing that's killed 500,000 people in just in the United States isn't real. So, whatever, so you tell yourself that so you can go on with your lives. It's just a straight up cope. Um, so yeah. Straight up cope. I mean, U.S. media is center right. Yeah, it's pretty indisputable for the most part. Actually, you want to see something about the U.S. media being center right? I'm gonna jump around a little bit from my rundown today. Where is it? See, center right media. Holy shit! This is some holy shit right here. Wait, where is it? Not that. I think I deleted it. It was. I can pull it up in Discord. This pissed me off because, like, this is one of those, like, oh yes, MSNBC is the liberal or whatever. Is the liberal? Well, it is. It is the liberal news to be clear. But this particular story was like, oh, fuck off. Where is it? Here it is. Unbelievable right here. For a couple of reasons. All right. So here is one of the sweet. You don't even have a center over there. Yeah, y'all have like all Murdoch media. Here is like one of these like golden boys. Like a lot of people refer to him as like the good. And to be fair, he's not like the worst person on MSNBC. Wait a minute. Where's the video? I'm about to go crazy right here. Hold on a second. Where's the clip that I... All right. What's going on here? All right, here it is. Did they delete it? All right, here it is. This was bullshit right here.
Marxist-Leninist left. And the way, so what we are seeing with those changes.
Chris Hayes is sort of like the liberal on MSNBC who often says things like that are more progressive, I guess you could say, than people that are more generally on there. He's viewed as like the good one in a lot of circles, but like, which makes this like so much more like annoying and really sort of damaging. So lately, the Republicans are sort of going after, like, they're having their own sort of internal purge, where a lot of the sort of like centrist, like never Trump type Republicans are sort of, slap fighting with the sort of like radical, like America First QAnon caucus that's existing, right? And this sort of like comparison that Chris Hayes is about to make just smacks of cancel. Yeah, I mean, he's, I guess, the best person on MSNBC, but it's not saying much. But here's Chris Hayes basically red baiting, like just using this as an opportunity to red bait.
Cheney and the party line here harkens back to the origins of that phrase in the Marxist-Leninist left and the ways in which political factions, most embodied in Lenin's Bolsheviks, adhered to a principle.
The Republicans are actually the Bolsheviks, folks. What?
Harkens back to the origins of that phrase in the Marxist-Leninist left and the ways in which political factions, most embodied in Lenin's Bolsheviks, adhered to a principle called democratic centralism. That is, within the party, they could argue within the vanguard of the party behind the scenes. But once a decision was set, once they decided what the party line was, there could be no public dissent. And that principle, that way of operating, grew more and more cultish and insane over time. And it manifested in all sorts of awful and pernicious ways throughout history, culminating in the Stalinist cult of personality and the reign of terror under Stalin.
Straight up red baiting, like literally just taking the opportunity of the Republicans like going after themselves and just basically saying that, oh, actually you're just like Stalin, you're just like, the fucking commies or whatever.
Of constant murder and disappearances of people who committed some ideological sin they may not even have understood. On Tuesday, it could be that the party line was 2 + 2 = 5. And on Wednesday, everyone who said it was 2 + 2 = 5 was banished to the gulag because now it was 2 + 2 = 7. Now, clearly, we are a very, very long way from that.
Oh, we're not saying that they're the Bolshevik Party, but the Republicans, the right wing, like frothing at the mouth, like a nationalist racist, aren't. We're not saying that they're like the Bolshevik Party, the party that it was essentially supposed to represent the working class. No, I'm not like. First off, this is not like a defense of Stalin or anything, but like this is like an absolutely like. If this had happened during the Cold War or whatever, this would not be out of place.
Someone's getting thrown into a gulag. Congresswoman Liz Cheney is probably just getting voted out of leadership. She's still going to be a congresswoman. It's fine. We're not in Stalinist Russia. But the tendency that's on display here, the tendency to turn a simple statement of fact, of reality, what happened, into a political litmus test is unnerving, to say the least. It gets back to the origin of what we mean when we use the word Orwellian. It's an overused adjective, of course, but it was born of George Orwell's real experience, in part fighting both alongside and then against Stalinist factions in the Spanish Civil War. And Orwell...
Straight up red baiting, dude. Just straight up red baiting. Like, oh, I'm not saying that it's like the... I'm not saying that it's like the Bolsheviks. I'm not trying to say it's like Stalin, but it's like Stalin. And it's I'm not going to go any more into that, but that's just like wild shit, right? Like this is the best person purportedly on MSNBC who's basically just straight up red baiting to essentially smear the Republicans as like the commies or something, or like he's making a party line point when like Republicans disagree in public like all the time. They yell at each other. They fucking hate one another. They like literally hate one another. But like right now, the fact that like they're going and it's weird that it's happening over like Liz Cheney, like the daughter of Dick Cheney. Like the fact that they're like trying to like go after her. I mean, I'm just sort of like sitting back here and saying like I hope they just kill one another, you know? But it's just like the point that Chris Hayes would just like find this as an opportunity to not only intervene and say like, well, take the side of Liz Cheney essentially, but also basically smear the like QAnon Republicans, which like no love for them or whatever, but like smear them as like the radical communists or whatever is just like insanity. Like every implication with that is just straight up fucking red baiting is what it is. You're basically making like you're using this as an opportunity to punch the left, to essentially like, you know, let's have one WMD. Yeah, but you're using it as an opportunity to essentially like, instead of just like let them like destroy one another, like which they could and should definitely do, you're just using this like as an opportunity to just, you know, to do red baiting. It's pretty pathetic. So yeah. How's everybody doing today? Vibe check. How's it going? I gotta get some more coffee, I think. But yeah, you think he's trying to call them revisionists? That's pretty funny. Revisionists. the revisionist Republicans are, you know, well, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into the neocons. But no, it was yeah, it's very weird. It's a very weird thing. Literally red baiting. Yeah. All right. Before I move on, I wanted to do this one more story and then I'll get some more coffee. But back to COVID really quick. Good news happened. So as we know, India is basically on fire. Like the Modi regime has sort of really fucked up. Or just doesn't give a shit. That's probably more likely on the COVID situation. And they're having like wild outbreaks out there. And one of the things that is part of, you know, the problem for this is that all right. So Bill Gates, it all starts with Bill Gates. He's like a grand villain in this entire story because originally Covovax, I believe it was, which was one of the vaccines that were developed, was developed without, it was sort of like an open source patent where essentially anybody would have been able to come in. It came from one of the colleges. I can't remember which one. One of the like elite colleges in the United States developed this vaccine, the Covovax vaccine, and there was essentially they were going to move forward with it until without intellectual property protections, and essentially Bill Gates, like this absolute sociopath, this villain, this movie like cartoon villain, decided to like run over there and say, hey, why don't you instead of leaving this open source so that anybody can use it, why don't you like patent this and sell it to like AstraZeneca, who ended up getting it, right? So anyway, there was a lot of pushing on opening up vaccine patents, since the U.S. has essentially been able to spread vaccinations fairly broadly. All things considered, I mean, we're at about 40% in the United States right now, which is like, and we're leveling off, which isn't great. But in places like India, the number is much lower, and like I was saying earlier, there's uncontrolled spread of COVID. Anyway, just yesterday, Biden essentially made a move to waive those patents, which is good. So let's take a look at this. Joe Biden's decision to support the waiving of wait, this is skipping steps. Oh my God, the Wall Street Journal copium is perfect. Yeah, here's what I was looking for. Yeah, U.S. Supports vaccine patent waiver proposal at the World Trade Organization. So the Biden administration, in a major decision on Wednesday, said it would support easing patent rules on COVID-19 vaccines after intense internal debate and strong pushback from American drug makers, potentially expanding the global supply and narrowing the vaccination gap between rich and poor nations. So what essentially is happening is, and like pharmaceutical companies are pissed about this, by the way. They're making it so that anybody can develop or more people can develop the vaccine. You don't need to own the intellectual property rights. So like part of the thing with intellectual property law is if you start to even if you know all of the methodology and you produce a vaccine, whichever one it is, you can essentially be sued and sanctioned and all these other things. And what this move is going to do is going to relax that. So it would be able to be produced abroad, not just in America. So the move is preliminary and will not guarantee the global patent rules are lifted right away, but the Biden administration's signal of support amounts to a major step that aid groups and Democrats had been pressing for. So we're not there yet in terms of it being completely finished, being rolled out. President Joe Biden and I'll see. The administration believes strongly in intellectual property protections, but in service of ending this pandemic, supports a waiver of those protections for COVID-19 vaccines. Trade Rep Catherine Tai wrote in a statement. What about vaccine tracking? We're not there, not in the U.S. at least. We're not at the point where we're like doing the vaccine passport, but maybe we can get there. President Joe Biden and Tai have been weighing the issue after calls from global advocacy groups and progressives to support waivers for the WTO rules that have been proposed by India and South Africa. Biden, as a candidate, promised to support such waivers, but had been under pressure from pharmaceutical companies to keep them in place. So, like the video that, and this is why Addie Barkan came up. Addie Barkan is a health justice activist. He's a health justice activist, and he had an interview with Biden a while back, and this just recently resurfaced, where he basically just said, "Absolutely, here it is. Wait, no. If would you waive the vaccine?"
Dear President Biden,
here you go.
I want to remind you of a promise you made to me, and to the American people.
If the US discovers a vaccine first, will you commit to sharing that technology with other countries? And will you ensure there are no patents to stand in the way of other countries and companies mass producing those life-saving vaccines?
Absolutely, positively. This is the only humane thing in the world to do.
Mr. President, you and I are both safe from this deadly pandemic because we could get the vaccine. And we will stay safe if you reverse Trump's inhumane policies and we vaccinate the entire world. That is the only way that we can prevent the development of vaccine-resistant coronavirus variants. But billions of families around the world aren't as lucky as you and me.
India's being engulfed by this virus, and its people are utterly helpless.
Coming. Mass cremations and funeral pyres now lighting the
India has
streets.
set a global record for daily infections and
Indians
deaths.
are being abandoned in the teeth of a deadly disease. Only around 2% of Indians are fully inoculated.
If any American leader of our lifetime has understood the value of a single life, and the deep pain of loss, it is you. But you also know the beauty of salvation. You know the joys that life can bring. When I asked you last year if you would change the global rules for vaccines, you did not hesitate, equivocate, or mince your words.
The answer is yes. Yes, yes, yes. And it's not only a good thing to do, it's overwhelmingly in our interest to do it as well.
May 5th will be your moment, America's moment, to steer us down a more just and humane path. Governments from around the globe will gather at the World Trade Organization. They will ask America to waive the rules that are blocking them from making enough vaccines to protect their people. In this pandemic, millions of families around the world are grieving because of one stray cough, one brief mistake, one unfortunate moment. American innovation has delivered health and safety to the people of this country. But billions of people have been excluded. Their dreams are no less real than ours. Their love is no less strong, their lives are no less worthy. But because they live somewhere else, because they have less money, because the international laws are unfair, and because the pharmaceutical companies are so greedy, millions more people may die of this disease. You know that this is wrong. You know it in the marrow of your bones. In a few days, at the WTO meeting, all eyes will be on America. We will decide the answer to the world's plague. What kind of leadership will we display? The answer, Mr. President, is up to you.
There you go. There's Addy Barkin and the video. I was hoping to get the raw video, but there you go. More Perfect Union has been doing some really great work around this. They've also been, as many of us remember, doing fairly good, really good work, or at least good coverage of the Amazon Union Drive. But yeah, so essentially the balls, the gears are turning to essentially make this more broadly available for more people. So that's good. We do still have the problem of, and we're going to get to that now, the problem of the vaccine in the United States being not so broadly distributed, and here's part of the reason why. So Tucker Carlson, who is the host of one of the biggest primetime shows, probably the biggest primetime show on the biggest cable network in news, has been really going down a white, not just like a white nationalist sort of faux populist line, but part of that has been bringing into question, as we talked about last week, his questioning of masks, or his portrayal as making kids wear masks in school when the vaccine is, when the pandemic is purportedly over or whatever. He equated that to child abuse, and essentially said you should call Child Protective Services if you saw a kid wearing a mask, and essentially equated making children wear masks in school the equivalent of like a teacher punching a child. Absolutely insane rhetoric. And he goes on because now he's made some claims about Americans being killed by the vaccine. So let's take a look.
Between late December of 2020 and last month, a total of 3,362 people apparently died after getting the COVID vaccine in the United States. 3,362. That's an average of roughly 30 people every day. So what does that add up to? By the way, that reporting period ended on April 23, and we don't have numbers past that, not quite up to date. But we can assume that another 360 people at that rate have died in the 12 days since. So you put it all together, and then
let's take a look. Okay, let's listen again to what he's saying really quickly, because he's mentioning some numbers very, very quickly and very, very cavalierly, and like part of the intention of doing that is sort of overwhelming you with that kind of information. Let's look at it again.
Between late December of 2020 and last month, a total of 3,362 people apparently died after getting the COVID vaccine.
3,000 people apparently died between December and April. Okay. Apparently died.
States. 3,362. That's an average of roughly 30 people every day. So what does that add up to? By the way, that reporting period ended on April 23, and we don't have numbers past that, not quite up to date.
So 30 people died a day, according to Tucker Carlson, that have gotten the vaccine. Now, think about this part first. Who were the first people to qualify to receive the vaccine? It was older people, right? Older people generally die more frequently than younger people. So that's potentially part of the answer to this.
But we can assume that another 360 people at that rate have died in the 12 days since. So you put it all together, and that is a total of 3,722 deaths. That's almost 4,000 people who died after getting the COVID vaccines. The actual number is almost certainly higher than that, perhaps vastly higher than that. The data we just cited.
So he started from apparently 30 people have died who have taken the vaccine, not because they got the vaccine, but they had gotten the vaccine and then they died. Remember, millions of people, over 100 million people have gotten the vaccine, and if 3,000 of them had died, that's actually sounds like a pretty good clip. They're not, and there's no connection to whether or not they're dying from the vaccine, right? Okay, let's keep going.
Come from the Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System, VAERS. VAERS is managed by the CDC and the FDA. VAERS has received a lot of criticism over the years, some of it founded. Some critics have argued for a long time that VAERS undercounts vaccine injuries. A report submitted to the Department of Health and Human Services in 2010 concluded that, quote, fewer than 1% of vaccine adverse events are reported by the VAERS system, fewer than 1%. So what is the real number of people who apparently have been killed or injured by the vaccines? Well, we don't know that number. Nobody does, and we're not going to speculate about it on this show.
But hold on. So he's basically saying he's asking the question, how many people have died from the vaccine? Oh, we don't know. We're not going to speculate in terms of the hard numbers. We're just going to imply that it's far more, potentially, we're potentially only reporting 1% of the potentially millions of deaths that actually did happen from this vaccine is what he's suggesting here.
But it's clear that what is happening now, for whatever reason, is not even close to normal. It's not even close to what we see in previous years with previous vaccines.
So let's just grant that there's not more. Let's just grant that 3,000 people have died, and we're not going to speculate into that. How many people died that did not take the vaccine? How many people died per day? And again, maybe this is a little bit irresponsible, but he himself said that these deaths are not attributed to the vaccine. But let's just say, for example, let's just say, just for the sake of argument, that they are. Okay. Then essentially, you're making a calculation, right? Of like, well, people are going to die this way or that way. He created a trolley problem, essentially. And he's saying that it's worse that people who die from the vaccine, which the numbers are, let me see, death per day, COVID, United States. So he's saying 30 per day for months. I remember there was points where it was like, it was calculated by the number of deaths per minute. Like, 5 deaths per minute, 1 death per minute, 2 deaths per minute. I can't remember exactly what the specifics was, but it got to the point where it was alarming. And essentially, hundreds of people had died per day from COVID. So he's saying that 30 people, even if that, 30 people who got the vaccine, not even because of the vaccine, died out of thousands, is somehow worse than, hundreds and hundreds of people per day. And he's using that as an argument to bring, and this is the point, right? The point of doing this is to essentially scare the shit out of his, very old, boomer audience. Like the point of doing that, I mean, again, the number of deaths in the US from COVID right now is 575,491. I'm looking at that from the COVID tracker from the CDC. In fact, here it is. There are 250 million vaccines administered. So, okay, 250 million vaccines administered, 3,000, I guess, of those, using Tucker Carlson's framing, 250 million, 3,000, or maybe, rounded up to 4,000, I guess. That's like 0.25%, give or take. So, what? Let's just, why is my computer sound like a weed whacker all of a sudden? So yeah, this guy's bullshitting you in terms of just hyping up and totally freaking out people who are, again, people who are older will pretend that they're not scared that they're not scared of COVID, but they are. They have to be. Like, you cannot ignore the fact that there's a worldwide pandemic happening right now. You can't pretend that it's not taking place. What the but what you do, well, you can pretend. You sort of do the copium thing where you say, oh, it's not real. I'm going to pretend that my life is just going to continue as it had prior to COVID. And when that, and you're just going to you're going to do what boomers do. You're going to front that you're tough. You're going to front that you're not scared. You're going to pretend that you're not freaking out because of this COVID pandemic or whatever. But really, in your heart, you're fucking terrified. But the problem is that they don't really see a path for what they should do. Okay, I got to open my computer. You hear this? All right. My computer's about to explode. Hold on one second. Okay. As soon as I took the side panel off, it stopped. All right. Well, I'm going to have to... Yeah, Tucker's BS. And that motherfucker 100% is vaccinated, right? There's no question on at all that this dude got. Yeah, Bill Gates is I'm under attack. I've been DDoS'd or something. I think it was just one of my wires, one of my power wire. I didn't run my cable management particularly good when I built that thing. and I think it was hitting my processor fan. So it's a cell phone self-reporting that I'm a shitty computer builder. But yeah, so Bill Gates, fuck Bill Gates. I mean, wow, I got to Bill Gates just because G Wolf posted it in the chat. But yeah. I mean, quickly on that, love isn't real. Bill and Melinda Gates can't make it anymore. If they can't make it, nobody can. It's sad. Speaking of sad, one last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is basically a letter from an evil villain. When's the last time I blew the cat hair out of my computer fan? It's been a while. I've actually been keeping my computer in pretty decent shape. No, not that one. Man. Here is Jeff Bezos, who finally, sadly, stepped down from Amazon, and he basically wrote an evil villain letter to his shareholders. It's not long, but it's really just bizarre. This dude is a fucking freak. To our share owners, in Amazon's 1997 letter to our shareholders, our first, I talked about our hope to create an enduring franchise, one that would reinvent what it means to serve our customers by unlocking the internet's power. I noticed, you see, this motherfucker is focused on the power of the internet. Yes, unlimited power. I noted that Amazon had grown from having 158 employees to 614, and that we had surpassed the 1.5 million customer accounts. Oh my God, Jeff Bezos Live Journal, fucking sign me up. They've gone public at yeah. We've come a long way, baby. Along the way, we've created 1.6 trillion in wealth for share owners, not for fucking workers at all. Who are they? Your shares won, and my Amazon shares have made me wealthy. But more than 7/8 of the shares, representing 1.4 trillion of the wealth creation, are owned by others. Who are they? They're pension funds, yes, we give away so much money. They're Mary and Larry, who sent me this note out of the blue as I was just sitting down to write this shareholder. Like, he's just like pouring out like his like, this is me being a human. Like, you could almost have it be thanks for making Amazon a great company. We thought would like, like, fuck this dude. Like, this dude literally just, I don't know if he's gonna have a blog, but he literally just like made an entire business on like essentially giving a shitty deal to the post office and like riding them into the ground, essentially. So there's the Earth's best employer and Earth's safest place to work. This is where I wanted to go. The fact is, and remember, when Amazon, like, if you can remember from the Amazon Union Drive, workers were having to like poop in bags and like pee in bottles, and workers were talking about having to work while injured and meet quotas of production, or they would get like hammered. Essentially, they would get like snitched on by their bosses. And there's like reports of people who were essentially, I remember the technology when they would have to essentially optimize their motion in the most like weirdest, tailorist like dystopian version. So here's Earth's best employer and Earth's safest place to work. The fact is, the large team of thousands of people who lead operations at Amazon have always cared deeply for our hourly employees, and we're proud of the work environment we've created. Yeah, we're proud of the peeing in bottles and pooping in bags environment. We're also proud of the fact that Amazon is a company that does more than just create jobs for computer scientists and people with advanced degrees. We create jobs for people who never got that advantage. Now, remember that those jobs, specifically in Alabama, they pay less than warehouses more generally in that area. So you're creating jobs that pay less. And, despite what we've accomplished, it's clear to me that we need a better vision for our employee success. We have always wanted to be Earth's most customer-centric company. We won't change that. It's got us here. But I am committing us to an addition. We're going to be Earth's best employer and Earth's safest place to work. So he's already living on Mars. Exactly. That's why he's creating the space program to blast the fuck out of here. In my upcoming role as executive chair, I'm going to focus on new initiatives. I'm an inventor. I'm what I enjoy the most and what I do. It's what I do the most and what I do best. It's where I create the most value. How many times is he using I? I'm excited to work alongside the large team of passionate people we have in ops and help invent this arena of Earth's best employer and Earth's safest place to work. Like, he's just saying it. He's actually not doing anything. He's not doing anything to actually make things safer. He's just saying, I'm going to make things safer. On the details, we at Amazon are always flexible, but on matters of vision, we are stubborn and relentless. We have, super villain talk. We have never failed when we set our minds to something, and we're not going to fail this either. We dive deep into safety issues. For example, about 40% of work-related injuries at Amazon are related to musculoskeletal disorders, things like sprains or strains that can be caused by repetitive motions. Yes, because you make people wear a fucking Fitbit that tracks their motion. MSDs are common in this type of work that we do and are more likely to occur during employees' first 6 months. We need to invent solutions to reduce MSDs for new employees, many of whom might be working in a physical role for the first time. Like, we're going to innovate ourselves out of like OSHA regulations is essentially what he's saying. One such program is Working Well, which we launched 859,000 to 859,000 employees at 350 sites across the North America and Europe in 2020, where we coach small groups of employees on body mechanics, proactive wellness, and safety. So here's part of that too. Like, if you're going to do a training, you're essentially taking the responsibility off of yourself for those conditions and saying, well, now you have a piece of paper that you've copied and given to your boss that says that you know how to do this thing. We provided the training. You officially on paper know how to do it. So now it's your fucking problem. In addition to reducing workplace injuries, these concepts have a positive impact on regular day-to-day. Yeah. He goes on and on. Oh my God, what a long-winded thing. When we lead, others follow. He's going to invent exoskeletons that his employees can purchase to work through the injuries caused by working there. Maybe he will. I mean, that would be a true innovation. But the only thing that Amazon has ever innovated was how to cut corners on costs. That's why they're giant. That's why they're huge. They figured out how to hack the system and essentially, like I said, ride the post office, build and we got to get out of here. Damn, I wanted to read more of this, but unfortunately, maybe we'll take a look at it more. But this is so fucking long. Oh my God. All right. Well, we got to wrap it up. Yeah. Hug your kids and tell them you love them. No, I mean, like super villain shit. He's basically just, I love when they do this stuff too. We can get out of here right after this. To further accelerate investments in new technologies, need to build a zero carbon economy. This is just like buzzword salad. We introduced the Climate Pledge last June. The investment program started with $2 billion to invest in visionary companies that aim to facilitate the transition to a low carbon economy. This is on Jesus Christ. He's just like trying to get credit. This is exactly what fucking Bill Gates does. Is he essentially buys up sectors of an industry under the guise of philanthropy, and he essentially can control that sector. Like that's what's going on with Bill Gates, and it's gone on with Bill Gates in education for how many years? I mean, about what 20 years. He essentially put Bill Gates. And Bill Gates is not Jeff Bezos, to be like clear, but essentially Bill Gates has undue influence, specifically in education. I'll talk about that because that's something that I'm closely connected to. He has undue influence on education because he essentially gives tons of quote unquote donations to education programs in terms of things like standardized testing and teacher evaluation. And what essentially happened, he made our jobs worse over that period of time. The term accountability was bandied about quite a bit, and that was essentially a way to essentially attack teachers and blame them for the problems that exist in our schools. And then there was a report that the Gates Foundation essentially commissioned from the Rand Corporation and said that the tens of millions of dollars that that they spent over the years, all of these reforms that were supposed to make our school system better and more efficient and more accountable or whatever the hell, had zero effect on outcomes. So essentially the money that went in was, the only difference that it had is it just changed the way that school is to fit the vision of the billionaire that's putting that money in. But it didn't do anything to change the outcomes, even on the terms of those people. So anyway, we got to wrap it up. All billionaires are bastards. Let's be 100% clear on that. You can listen Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Central Time. Good Morning Comrade. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Good Morning Comrade. I've talked about this so many times, G Wolf, but like I cannot get over it because it's just like so much like a giant issue. We've talked about this with Anne Marie Coviello. We've talked about this with Elizabeth K. Jeffers. I've talked about this with like so many people, and I'm not going to stop. But yeah, if you check our go to goodmorningcomrade.com, you can find our entire library on our Podbean page. You can find it all there. But yeah, I'm going to get going. Yeah, bye everybody. Love you. Bye.